Mic test. 1, 2. Standby crew. 3, 2, 1. Rolling for On Her Side.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome to On Her Side. I have with me today my guest Uruj Afzal Sahiba. Assalamu alaikum Uruj, Jazakallah for joining.
Walaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It's a pleasure to be here.
Jazakallah Uruj. So today we're going to be talking about the crisis of consumerism, which is obviously something that is, taken over in this day and age. And tell me first, are you a big shopper?
To be honest, I am. I like to go shopping. It makes me happy. If I'm bored or I'm feeling down, then I go shopping and it cheers me up. It lightens the mood. But I do have boundaries for myself set up. So if I'm purchasing a lot of jewelry, then the next time I go to a mall, I won't be buying the same things, although they're attractive. I'll focus on other things. Yeah. It's the same for beauty and all the products.
It seems like you can always buy more, right? Like you could just use that one more pair of shoes or that handbag. I know it's really hard. We've all heard the famous saying, you shop till you drop. And today we live in a world which is really, it has an appetite for overconsumption. And, before I think the culture, the society was such that your comparison or your lifestyle was basically, compared to those who were around you locally. So it was like your local neighborhood or people's homes that you visited, people who were in your social circle, and you used to see what their lifestyle was like and what kinds of goods they owned, and you compared yourself socially to that. So it was a little bit of competition and a comparison. But now with the advent of social media and technology today, it's almost like that frame has expanded to a global audience, right? So the pressure has been really hyped up and for competitive consumption.
That's true. I totally agree with the competitive consumption point. And now if we see, for an example, how the iPhone has come out. So when people purchased the iPhone 14, it was a brand new design. They were super excited. And then 12 months later, as soon as 15 hits the market...
It's like you don't want to show your phone to anybody.
Exactly. It's like you're behind
you're
in the trends. And even apart from technology, even in terms of clothes or makeup, fashion trends are constantly changing.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we open our closet now and we see something from last year, it's that's so old-fashioned, or that's so out of trend.
Yeah. So basically there's this competition, and companies are producing and marketing their products, more than ever before. So if the latest smartphone comes out onto the market, we all chase, all chasing that and running to get it. But it's one thing when the company is marketing this smartphone to you or this gadget to you or device to you, but it's also relative to your social circle, right? So it's the people in your social circle, the people that you interact with on a daily basis. Are they also purchasing those same goods? And if they are, then you're more, under pressure to do the same because you want to keep up.
Exactly. I think in today's society, we all just want to fit in. And if somebody has something, we have to match that standard or exceed it.
It's exactly that. It's the fit in part. I think that's what is the main kind of catalyst to all of this buying and purchasing and everything, is because it feels like that's how we're going to showcase our value. That's how we're going to profile ourselves. It's based on the worth of the things we own. That's our worth, right?
Yes.
Like you kind of take it on. And of course, we know that that's not true. But what do you think about, the marketing and the advertising strategies that companies are employing these days? I mean, some say that, it's almost like they've made the decision for you to purchase something before even you know that you've made that decision.
Yes. So I think advertising has a huge role to play in things that we purchase. So companies usually know what we want to buy before we know we want to buy that product. And they're using this strategy called neuromarketing. So what they do is they collect data, and that can be from our phones, our search queries, our browsing history, our social media usage. And what they do is they analyze this data through algorithms and machine learning, which kind of identifies patterns, and it analyzes what people will be interested in, their behaviors or demographics. And then through that, they give you personalized content. So now when I scroll through my social media feed, all the ads that I'm going to see is going to be things I'm interested in and I'm inclined to purchase.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what, though? I do feel sometimes, though, that an argument could be made to say, yes, they're trying to, feed you all of this information and showing you these brand new shiny products, but it's still your choice to say, no, I don't want to buy it. I mean, one could potentially train themselves to withhold and not get into it. And the other thing, too, is that I was reading somewhere, a lot of the things that we want to purchase that are more like lifestyle things, we don't go and purchase them because we saw an advertisement for it. We want to purchase them, and it goes back to your social circle. It's because we already know that this is what we want to buy because this is going to help us fit into our social circle. Right? So buying a house or buying a bigger house or buying a house that's like out in the country or whatever it is, a vacation cottage, those are things that you already know that you want to buy, and it's mostly because someone else has bought it and you want now to, compete.
That's true.
Right?
I think it's also like the prestige associated to some items, like luxurious items, for example. Then buying them, of course, you feel like it identifies you. It kind of boosts your value or your self-worth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And since we're talking about buying products, I was reading somewhere that when you're about to make a purchase, there's this chemical in your brain called dopamine.
Yes.
Yes, that kicks in, and it makes you excited and you feel pleasure about
and
buying
happy.
that item.
Yes.
Yeah. But the interesting part is that it's short term. So once you go home and you realize, you've overspent or you went outside of your budget, then you feel stressed about it. And then it's
remorse kicks in. Yeah. But you know what, though? The other thing, too, I find is that a lot of people will say that spending on, luxury items or items that refine me or are of a higher, price point, these are ways for me to celebrate myself. I work really hard. They're essential to my mental well-being, that I also reward myself. I want to acknowledge my achievements. So I'm going to, buy myself this because I deserve it, So when you start with that type of mentality, it might be okay, I suppose, in some cases, and it might be okay in the short term. But if you start to maybe escalate that's also a dangerous habit.
Yeah. So I think I agree with the point that sometimes we want to reward ourselves, but I feel like once we create that lifestyle for ourselves, like it's justified to buy like one expensive item or a few that you're really into or a brand you really like. But what happens is that once you buy that high-end product, it's really hard to go back.
Yes.
It's you set that standard for yourself and you can't go back.
You know what? So I was just speaking to somebody like half an hour ago, and this is exactly what they said. They said, you know what? Sometimes when you buy things at a higher price point, you pay for the quality. And once you get used to that quality, you don't want to downgrade yourself. But I said, you know what? It's not about not buying that. It's about buying it and then wanting 20 more of the same thing. If you buy this handbag or this purse, and we talk about smaller items, or a pair of shoes or whatever it is, and it's brand name and it's a luxury item, you bought it, it's great, it makes you happy. Do you really now need one in every color and in every shape and size? And you really don't. You could probably do without it. So it's knowing where to stop. It's like you were saying in the beginning, is that you set limits for yourself. Yes, you do like to shop, and it's fine if you do, but it's the boundaries, right, that we want to stay within. And then just linking to that, how do you think this then plays out in terms of mental health of individuals? Like, yes, you have all of these items now, you've spent a lot on it, you might be in debt. You talked about having that remorse sometimes kick in after you've overspent. But long term, how do you feel that this would impact mental health?
I think it's dangerous for our mental health, to be very honest, because it's a never-ending cycle. Things are going to keep coming out and it's never going to be enough. And then it's not just like things you shop for that you have to worry about. There's mortgage payments, then you lease like luxury cars you have to pay monthly installments for. And then some people get phones on like 0 down payments and you have to pay monthly installments for that. So it's a lot of things that add up. And then on top of that, it's your credit card bills. And an interesting thing I read was that the average Canadian has a credit card debt of $4,000. And I was reading this article also where they were talking about people seem to be able to afford a lot more. It seems as everyone's wealthy. And what they had nailed it down to was that if you see that people can afford things that you would assume it's outside of their budget, then it's either because they have hidden wealth or hidden debt.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Probably very true as well, if you think about it. Like just going back to that point where when we talk about mental health and emotional health, when we start to define our worth by the value of the goods that we surround ourselves with, or the value of the lifestyle that we surround ourselves with, we've pretty much lost ourselves in that process. And when you lose that touch with yourself and reality, and the things that make you happy are all items, are all goods, are all like non-living things, then you've put yourself in a very dangerous place. Like you said, it can lead to a lot of anxiety and depression. And the worst thing is that sometimes you're so stuck in that lifestyle that despite having it cause you anxiety and depression, you have no choice but to carry on. Because you're now in this thing, you're dependent upon that lifestyle that you've built for yourself. So, case in point, you've now bought that big house, you have a mortgage payment. You can't just get out of it because you have anxiety. Now you have to pay for it. Now you have to keep going with it, right? And it stays with you. So where does it stop? How do we stop this crazy cycle? I know that there is this minimalist movement. A lot of people are talking about decluttering and living simply, which of course is very much aligned with Islamic values.
Yes, that's true. So it only ends if you want it to end. Yes, the minimalist lifestyle is becoming very trendy now. And it's a good approach. I mean, you get to keep things that add value to your life that really matter. And then you get rid of everything else. And it can be different for everybody. Like it can be books for some person, for another it can be like souvenirs that they're attached to.
Yeah.
And it's basically just to live simply.
Yeah.
But you have to want to do it. It requires effort.
Yeah.
And unless you're willing to detach yourself from those spheres of your social circles, unless you're willing to do that, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also just going back to the point we made at the beginning about how with the advent of social media and technology, you have this global audience. And at the same time, you're able to catch glimpses of other people's lives and lifestyles on a constant basis. And so even if you wanted to get out of your own reality, sometimes it's really difficult because you're watching all of these individuals post pictures and images and videos of their, lifestyle that you wish to attain as well. You want to live. And everybody, of course, wants to post like the most picture perfect,
That's
images.
true.
And so it's really, really hard to detangle yourself, I think, once you get into it. And I know that with the minimalist movement too, there's also, this movement of sustainable fashion, for example, where big brands are now moving towards creating items that can be sustained for a longer period of time, and they encourage the consumer to reuse and recycle and give back to the environment. And I'm reminded of this woman that I knew a few years ago, and I'm not kidding you. Every year she used to have maybe 30 to 40 new suits made from back home, from Pakistan, so that she could wear them at like every event, during the year, right? But her rule was that she could never repeat an outfit.
Yeah.
So if she's worn it once, if she's worn it at a wedding, she's not going to be able to wear it at another wedding. Why? Because people have seen her wear this. So the next wedding, she has to purchase a new suit. And imagine how expensive these are, right? So, and imagine how many you would have to purchase. And if you have a big family and you have a big social circle, where does it stop? It just, it just goes on and on. But there's people around us that they take this very seriously.
Yeah, they do. And like in school, even they teach you about the 3 R's, like reducing, reusing, and recycling.
Yeah.
But it's like, everything, but like, are we actually implementing that in our day-to-day lives?
Yeah.
And I was also reading somewhere, or it was a video, I believe, and they were saying that people who shop online, 9 out of 10 people don't return items, although they know they're not going to be using them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like the hassle of just processing the order, printing the label, and then going and shipping it back.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just a couple
let's keep
dollars.
it.
Yeah, and then they don't use it, but it ends up in the landfills.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with the shopping online, that has been magnified significantly after the pandemic or during the pandemic, when people started to shop online, and people who were privileged and had the means, I think, overshopped, because it is so easy to open up your app, any shopping app, and just go click, click, click and buy now, and that's it. Like, you get it, at your door the next day. So who's going to debate that's just too easy.
It's so easy. You don't get tired. I mean, walking around, what you mentioned about shop till you drop.
Yeah.
You get tired.
Yeah.
But online shopping,
you don't get tired. And you also don't physically ever open up your purse, your wallet, to see those bills go out. It's like it's happening in another virtual world where the money's being depleted from your account, and you have no control in a way over it, and because you don't see it, you feel like it's not happening, and it's very interesting, to me too, that when I read the statistic about how overspending and online buying and everything was at a sky-high point amongst the privileged during the pandemic, I mean, can you imagine that's how we responded to like a global crisis?
That's true.
What does that say about humanity? Is that we decided to overspend because it was just so much easier, and we felt like we deserved it, or people were in isolation, etc. So this was like a good solution, I suppose, to keep ourselves entertained and busy while we were in our lockdowns, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that if we were to move towards a mindset where we value our worth by who we are, how we interact with those around us, not with the value of the goods that we own, we would be in a healthier space. And I think we would learn to interact with the world of consumerism in a probably a healthier way as well.
That's true.
Right.
I mean, I feel like now closets are overflowing so much, yet like we still continue to buy more and more things.
Yeah.
And I feel like back in the day, people would buy things once the old ones, like they were completely used and they were going to throw it out. But with us, it's like we buy new things because the trends changed, and we don't throw it out because we barely use the old items. So we keep it, and now like we're buying storage and organizers to organize so many things we have.
The things that we have, but we don't want to get rid of them. And if we do, then we just go and we buy more, And one more thing I wanted to mention, when people spend a lot of money, let's say on a lifestyle event or a life event, like a wedding or a vacation or something, and you hear them talk about it, this is how much I spent on this vacation, or this was how much my wedding dress cost, or whatever. We're all very shocked and awed by it. Oh my goodness, how could you spend? But actually that then becomes our benchmark. We retain that information, and we say, you know what, I want to buy, it really looked so good, like it looks so pretty, and then we want to go and find out where did you get it from and all that, because we've now bought in to that image, and we want it for ourselves, and we're okay to spend that much money because, well, they spent it too, so it's doable.
Yes.
Right?
I totally agree. I think at the time we feel that, yes, it might be like so much, but then when your time comes, it's like, it's the benchmark, it's the standard.
And when enough people do it, it normalizes it. Then everyone
it.
is doing that. And it's actually many, many steps higher than what is of your means. You're so far beyond it, but it's normalized.
And then if you don't do it, it's like, what are people going to say?
Yes.
Everyone's doing it.
Yes. So it's that same whole keeping up with the Joneses, right? So the Joneses spend, and all you want to do is to keep up with them. And so you spend, and then they spend more because they have the means, and you spend more too. But you go, deeper and deeper into anxiety and depression because you can't keep up, yet you're stuck. It's just this cycle, right?
And I think like celebrities we look up to or influencers that post things, they also kind of like incline us to purchase things that we wouldn't otherwise. It's because we look up to them as role models and then we see them doing things and then we want to do it as well. So I think even going back to the teachings of Islam and like what we're taught from a very young age is to spend out of what we have. And there's a verse in the Holy Quran, it's chapter 2, verse 255, which says that spend out of which we have bestowed upon you. And what we've been bestowed is everything we have. It's not the debt or the loans that we're taking from banks and using them. Yeah. And there are a lot of blessings if we spend from what Allah has given to us.
Yeah. And that also allows us to stay within our boundaries, to live simply, as Islam teaches us. And there's also this component, I think, of of materialism and overconsumption, which leads to some individuals, I think, come under so much pressure to live this life and all of that they end up unfortunately turning to almost a life of crime. We see so much fraud and we see so much shoplifting and stealing, and all of these things are happening because people believe that they deserve a lifestyle and they will do anything to get it, or they have already overindulged into a lifestyle which now they can't keep up with and people money or whatever it is, and they have to keep up with their obligations, and so they now need to take from others, which is not theirs, of course. The other thing I was just thinking about too is, when we indulge in this extravagant lifestyle or a lifestyle of overconsumption, etc., we end up putting so much value on, I need to buy this smartphone, I need to have this type of car, I need to be wearing this designer dress, etc., or I need to buy, this type of jewelry, or I need to go on vacation here this year because I went there last year and I gotta do all the top destinations so that I can show that I've been everywhere, etc. What does it do to the people who are around you? People in your family, people, your partner, your husband or your wife, etc. If one person is just completely, has been engulfed with this love of materialism and material goods and this artificial lifestyle, the other person is either helping them pay for it and sustain it because they want them to be happy, or they are unable to keep up and start to resent, their partner, their husband or wife. And it really puts pressures on marriages. And unfortunately, we've seen marriages break down because of this type of materialism and engulfment in this overconsumption crisis.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And as you were mentioning that, it reminds me of a situation where there was a couple and the husband was really into doing new activities and it was like fulfilling the bucket list. And a lot of those activities were expensive and they kind of went into so much debt, and it was so hard for them to keep up with their household that the situation ended up in both parties having to separate.
Yeah. And that just truly leads to a breakdown of a healthy society, right? So, I mean, that's just a very, very unfortunate byproduct of living such a life and subscribing to such a lifestyle. So I think bottom line is money does not buy you happiness, even if you think it does. The things that you buy may bring you some contentment. They may bring you some happiness for a short period of time, but the true value of happiness is only gained by maintaining and building strong relationships with those who are around you and being with your family and learning to value people over things.
Absolutely.
Okay, inshallah. Jazakallah for joining. It was a wonderful conversation. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Cut. That's a wrap for On Her Side.